What's up guys, Howdish here, and today we're jumping in with some Destiny 2 news and updates. And of course, following the launch of Act 2 for Revenant, there's a few things to talk about there. We get some updates from Bungie, bits of clarification around some of the patch changes this week, future updates that Bungie have planned, that includes some exotic tuning in December, so we'll talk about the updates coming in the next month, new discoveries and secrets as part of Revenant Act 2, and a handful of other things which we'll round up in the video. So, as always guys, I hope you enjoy this one and find it useful. If you do, a rating below really does help us on the channel, but now let's get into it. And first up, before we talk about more of the seasonal content, Bungie have clarified that Endless Veil is currently out of the Trials rotation due to an audio issue that impacts situational awareness on the map. So once the issue is resolved, the map will re-enter the rotation for a future Trials weekend. Just something to keep in mind right there. They also talk about upcoming changes in December, and they refer to Raiju's Harness. They say, despite this Hunter exotic working as intended, some of Raiju's Harness's new behavior has been confusing to unravel for players, so to make the benefit more evident, we'll move up the floor on its super energy regen and lower the ceiling slightly. And overall, it should feel like a net increase in super energy gained, although sadly these changes didn't come together in time for the update that we've had this week. So they will be adding this tuning in a later patch dropping in December. So in terms of the change, firstly they've retuned super energy granted by defeating arc debuffed combatants. From minors, the super energy goes from 0.3% to 1%. For mages, it goes from 1.7 to 2.5, then for players it goes from 3.1 to 4%, and mini-bosses and bosses will see the super energy granted decreasing from 4.5 to 4%, which is a strange one, but nonetheless, they're also decreasing the amount of super energy granted for defeating arc debuffed combatants while Gathering Storm is being cast, and the maximum total energy granted this way remains the same at 50%, but the lightning summoned by Raiju's Harness on allies and enemies near the user will always apply status effects before dealing damage. So an interesting mix of changes there, and those will be making their way into the game once again in December. Also for clarification, with regards to Tether being disabled in the Vespers host dungeon, the D2 team said, "We hope to have a fix sooner rather than later, as it's proven to be a bit more difficult than initially thought, so we'll simply have to stay tuned on that one, but there is at least one more sandbox update with some patch changes coming next month, so I'll keep you guys posted if we hear any additional news." Next up though, a couple of extra updates from Bungie. For some reason, we're going to see more background maintenance and downtime today. So for November 20th, Bungie have said downtime begins at 5:45 AM and it should end at 9 AM. Certainly a strange one given that we already just had an update yesterday. I'll have to keep you guys posted if we get any details on why that's happening. Separately though, DMG confirms the team is looking into issues where characters cannot create tonics still, and hopefully they'll have an update on that this week. Unfortunate that that one has lasted so far for more or less the entirety of the episode. Of course, this week we got Act 2 with the Tomb of Elders, which is a pretty wild activity in terms of rewards. We can do a bunch of laps there and get 3 chests for every single lap, all of them dropping Revenant weapons and armor. And ultimately, something a lot of players didn't notice, but if you continue to complete rounds in the Contest of Elders, eventually we get to the Treasure Hoard, which yet again has a handful of chests, where this activity is essentially designed as a farming activity for the Revenant themed loot. So give us your thoughts on that. I've also got a video that breaks down the rewards and how some of it works, but it looks like there's going to be another component dropping during Act 2, a sort of mini event in a way, which does include a returning item from Destiny 1. So after the update yesterday, there's a new item called Bento tokens. The description says, must be an inside joke between Drifter and Eris. Looks like one of the dubious bentos that Drifter likes to make. And I believe that's the equivalent of some kind of lunchbox type item. But on top of the currency, there's a handful of quest lines, such as a dubious bento, and it looks like Drifter will be giving out these quests with a series of rewards that we can pick up from Eris Morn in the Moon. So, bit of a Drifter-Eris love story going on right here, and it would appear that it's sort of a mini event. There's a handful of these quests, some with pretty daft objectives, like collect dubious celery from defeated targets in Gambit. There's another quest called Stuff of Legends. That one will require final encounters to be completed in raids or dungeons. And then we have Nightmare Lunch to complete nightmare hunts on the moon, one to defeat nightmare bosses and challenging combatants, and to get final blows with Malfeasance, Witherhoard, Touch of Malice, Whisper, Xenophage or Arbalist. But then things get sort of interesting. Each of these quests will award some of these bento tokens, but there's another quest called Packed Lunch, where we need to investigate a vending machine near the Drifter in the tower, and we can see one of the rewards for that is the Chatterwhite, which is the Vault of Glass shader from Destiny 1. So that shader is going to be returning to the game, and apparently this sort of string of quests is referred to as an event called Firecracker, but otherwise in terms of rewards, the tokens that we get from the individual quests can be spent on some rewards at Eris Morn. So there's an armor set at the top that does require 2 tokens to pick up each piece, but those are actually artifice armor pieces. On top of that, we can pick up exotic upgrade materials or spoils of conquest. There's a bunch of mementos at the bottom there, and even some weapons. So Cloud Strike will be purchasable, as well as the Cataphract GL3 Adept, Igneous Hammer Adept, the Hothead Adept, or Horror's Least Adept. I'm not sure if those will all have fixed roles just yet, but there are those and the Chatterwhite shader coming back. And again, the event is referred to as Firecracker. However, we don't know when this is going to go live, so it's kind of reminiscent of something like the Where is Archie quests that we had back in Into the Light. It could be something that runs adjacent to the Dawning, or another event that we'll see over the festive season, or perhaps for New Year. For the moment though, that's all we really know about it, so something else to look out for. I'm sure some of those rewards potentially will be helpful for players, not least the shader, and perhaps the opportunity to pick up a couple of artifice armor pieces or a missing adept weapon or something like that. So another interesting thing, again, this is data mined or viewed via the database at the moment, so we can't say when it will happen, but it certainly appears that it will be a thing, and share any thoughts you have on it below. A final thing to mention here, but Destiny Bulletin shared that Bungie has acknowledged the community's growing interest in a potential Destiny 1 remastered or classic version, and at the moment there's a price drop for all Destiny 1 content, which is worth paying attention to if you want to go back and play any of that stuff. But Professor Broman said Destiny 1 Classic servers when, and DMG replied saying they're already live, you can play D1 right now. Seriously though, by Destiny 1 Classic, I assume you mean updated with quality of life and D2 features, but a full D1 content package. We're happy to pass along the feedback and desire, but of course there are zero promises. So it's an interesting bit of feedback to push. I've no doubt that there would be some degree of interest in that. However, given Bungie's sort of rescaling and changes in the studio, considering they want to continue supporting Destiny 2, we've got upcoming expansions, and whatever happens beyond the next sort of year or so, and given that Bungie are now split between Destiny and Marathon, as well as some other projects, I feel like the only way that they would do a sort of Destiny 1 Classic version or a major update to all of that content would be either to add it to Destiny 2, or it would have to happen in place of other updates for D2, theoretically instead of a D3, although Bungie have essentially said they don't plan to do that. Either way, it would require a significant amount of resources in order to update that game, and it would certainly take away from other possibilities for future content updates. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on that. Would you love to see it reprised? I think it would be awesome to have stuff like the Rise of Iron content back inside of Destiny 2, because of course on the other side we have a lot of D1's content in D2 right now in one form or another. So not sure what you guys think in terms of potential value of a content update like that, but give us your thoughts down below. And for today, that is what we have to speak about. So as always, I hope you found this video interesting, and if you have, a rating down below helps us out a lot. Plus, get subscribed and I'll keep you guys posted with more D2 content. Otherwise though, as always, I appreciate you tuning in, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.